Hello, everyone, and welcome to Collider Games. My name is Tzeng. I'm here with,
What's up, guys? It's your boy Dorian.
and we're here to talk about the Avengers, Marvel's Avengers, the beta, our first impressions. This isn't a review because we didn't get to play the full game, but we got to play a significant amount of time this beta. I mean, we played several hours of the campaign plus co-op missions, and we kind of want to break down exactly what we played. I mean, this game has been, I don't know, highly anticipated, hyped, but also a lot of controversy when it comes to like when they kind of did that first announcement trailer back in
hmm
E3, and so some of the criticisms about the graphics and people wondering about the game. But I would have to say overall my impressions are pretty positive. We played a significant chunk, like I said, solo campaign about 2.5 hours, and got to play with all the various different characters. But then later, you and me teamed up and played some co-op missions. We'll talk about earlier. But overall, what were your thoughts on this game?
So I was pleasantly surprised with just how much I enjoyed it. Like just overall, once we started, I was like, wait, this is pretty fun. And as we got more into it, and as we started playing more and more, especially the co-op mode, I was just pleasantly surprised with how well everything was flowing. And I did like there were really not too many not too many bugs or anything that I noticed that were like that made me like, oh, well, oh, what's going on? But just overall, I was pleasantly surprised with the gameplay, how everything looked, and the character designs themselves, and just how everything flowed together. And once we got into co-op mode, it just felt smooth as well. So overall, I gotta say, I'm pleasantly surprised with this early beta, and now I'm itching. We talked about it earlier. I'm like ready to get back to it. So I think that's a good sign that they have a potential good game on their hands because I've been ever since that beta ended. We were playing up until 12:01 when we got kicked off, and we were just
Yep.
like ever since then I've just been like, all right, I can't wait to get back to it. So I'm excited about other people getting to test it out soon.
Yeah, you and me just finished playing Ghost of Tsushima, which was a great game. You guys can check out our review, both our non-spoiler and spoiler reviews on the YouTube channel. But um, the way I look at this game is like, so Ghost of Tsushima has this melee combat style,
Yeah.
you know, with some RPG like elements where you're upgrading and having skill trees, and there's a story and combat, but that one kind of aspires to be, like a Kurosawa film.
hmm
This one aspires to be a Marvel film, and I don't mean that in a bad way because it actually achieves that. It's the Marvel MCU version of that, where it's probably combat wise it's not as deep as Ghost of Tsushima, but it's still fun enough and varied enough, especially with the co-op gameplay where Ghost is a single player, that you can have a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, especially so we didn't get to play with Captain America much, but as if I can compare anybody, we talked about it off camera as well. I said it was so funny when we were playing as Captain America and a little bit as Black Widow is that hit their gameplay style felt more in line with Jin and how he moves and just like parry and things like that. I thought that was pretty interesting, like the same type of game mechanics, just like enhanced by superhero elements. And that goes even further with Black Widow's gameplay. Although she doesn't have like repulsor blasters or anything like that, her guns and her actual hand-to-hand combat, I
Mhm.
think was probably the funnest to play out of all of them, the hand-to-hand combat in particular. But just overall, like you said, with the skill tree, I was pleasantly surprised with not like even though it's not super detailed like Ghost of
Mhm.
Tsushima where you have layers on layers on layers,
Yeah.
but with this combat you are still able to upgrade all these different characters. So five different characters being able to have five of their own unique different combos that you can kind of build on top of and enhance. I thought that was pretty cool because I didn't think it was going to be as detailed as it was thus far. With especially when I was like, all right, let me play with Kamala, and I was upgrading some of her things, and I was wondering at first would this actually make a difference in the game, or would I actually be able to notice these type of enhancements? And I was like, when I did a new combo, I was like, hey,
Yeah.
all right, that was something I didn't see before. So I'm glad that they went ahead and started to like add more detail to the skill tree than what was expected.
Yeah, you had mentioned it before, I think while we were playing, that there's so many characters, so they can't focus as much as like with Ghost of Tsushima, it's one character, right? So you
Right.
can layer tons of different skills trees and different variances to upgrade the character. While this one has varied amount of characters. Plus, we just heard that Spider-Man is now going to be part of the PS4 exclusive. I think post-launch though. I don't think it's going to be
Yeah.
at launch, but it's going to be post-launch. It's probably a post-campaign. It's probably for just co-op mode. But you have that X amount of characters, whether it's like 5, 6, whatever. You can't have each one super, super detailed. But it's detailed enough, like you said. It was surprisingly more so. And when it comes to the co-op part of the game, it reminds me. Did you ever play the old X-Men arcade game where you play
No,
all four?
no,
Oh, okay.
like where you're like, yeah, where you're like Jean Grey and Wolverine and all that. It's like the four of them together, like y'all are
Yes.
going. Yeah, yeah, I played that a little bit of that. Yeah.
I mean, this is just the modern day version of that, where that one kind of gets repetitive, right? Because you're not learning any new skills.
Right.
You have all the same powers you have from the beginning to the end. It's a side scroller or whatever, but you get that same feel because you can play up to 4-player co-op. You can help revive each other. But the added addition is you get to upgrade your different skills and also customize your character in terms of different skins. They gave us like fake credits during the beta, so we could purchase our own skins. I purchased one for Iron Man that had this, it was called Lux or whatever, and had this cool looking armor. They had one for the Hulk called Palm Springs, where he had this Palm Springs outfit, and you got a few as well.
Yeah, so when we remembered that we actually could buy the custom features because we were so like when I tell you when we jumped into the game, we were just playing the co-op mode. You get so lost into just like fighting and being in the co-op and doing the missions. It took us a second to be like, oh wait, we can buy our costumes and things like that. So when we did that, and I was already playing with Kamala because I think I had leveled her up the most, so I went ahead and bought her super suit and just that I think that added a whole new other feeling to the game once you were able to actually pick and customize what your character looked like, because at the beginning of each mission or each type of thing you do, they do a little walk up showing each character and what they're wearing, kind of like a Mortal Kombat type thing, like all right, here's your character's design, here's what they're looking like before they go into battle. So I'm excited to see them just I think that's one of the main DLC features that they'll be able to just constantly update with new costumes and things like that, on like how they do with the Spider-Man PS4 game, just constantly throwing new costumes. So I think that's going to be a big draw to get more fans in, because once we actually bought the new costumes and we were in the Quinjet waiting in the lobby, I was like, damn, it feels like we're like actual like superheroes, especially when it came to Kamala's character, because I'm not going to, there's no real spoilers, but when you do get to play with her during the campaign beta mode, you get to see her in her school uniform or her regular clothes. You don't get to see her in her super suit because of story points or whatever. So it was exciting to get to put her in a super suit with compared to all the other Avengers and putting her together. So that was pretty awesome. Just the costumes themselves. So I'm excited about that because I could see myself diving into that for hours with all those suits.
Yeah. Speaking of the solo campaign, there's like two parts to it. The first half is kind of what everyone saw. If you watch the 20-minute demo from E3 of last year, that you basically play that out, right? You play as Thor, Iron Man, Black Widow, Captain America, Hulk. You play with all of them for a short amount of time, but it's pretty much everything that you saw in that 20-minute, preview, but maybe a little more extended. But then later kind of focuses on Kamala Khan's character, which you didn't really get to play or see before, and then her relationship with the Hulk and, the story points there. Yeah, Kamala Khan, I think, is a good character to be the POV character, within the story, because she's the one new. She's not really an Avenger. She's a fan of the Avengers. She always keeps talking about her fan fiction and all that stuff and what it's like to meet these characters that are larger than life. And so she's kind of the gateway for you as the player to be introduced into this world.
Yeah, and I thought it was very interesting. Like within the beta, you play a good chunk of the whole time. Like with the campaign solo mode, you get a good amount of time with Kamala and Hulk. And I think they just did that because although if like you're a Marvel fan, you've probably heard of Kamala, and now that she's getting her own Disney Plus show, she's getting a little bit more buzz. But for the general audience fan who might have just like, oh, Avengers is getting a game, I think this was a smart play to introduce her and get to play with her more than the other characters, because we already know what Hulk and all of them can do. Like people aren't too familiar with her powers in general, like her emboldening and getting bigger and her stretching. So I thought that was a great move. And I gotta say, like Troy Baker called it in our interview, he said she was probably one of the most funnest characters to play with. And I think personally, she, like from the 5 we've got to play with thus far, and we didn't get to touch too much on Thor and Captain America
Captain
or
America.
Black Widow for the most part. But just in general, like Kamala, I thought her gameplay was fantastic, especially the traversal, like her being able to essentially swing and grab anything like Spider-Man. I thought that was cool. And then when you can use her emboldened ability and just grow big and destroy things, that's a game changer. Like I think she's one of the bigger assets to the team when it comes to like the four co-op mode. Like you definitely want to have a Kamala on your team because she can reach anywhere. So I'm glad people are going to get to see her in action in this game.
Yeah, I think another strong point to this game is that the styles of play for each character are different. You
Hmm.
know, you really like Kamala Khan. I really like the Hulk style of
Hmm.
playing, and like each character has their strengths and weaknesses. Iron Man I thought was fun to play as well, but the styles
Yeah.
are a lot different, right? Like Iron Man is good at doing certain things that Hulk is not good at doing, and then Hulk is good at doing certain things that Iron Man's not, So I like that variance, and you need that when you're, especially when you're playing four-player co-op missions.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting. Like, so we talked about it while we were playing. We said if you're going to play co-op, unless you like definitely need like you have four friends that are ready to go, we definitely recommend having at least one of the AI be part of your team because especially we were playing on I think normal, but
Yeah.
because of some of the missions, there are different power levels. So your character could be a level 10, but the mission itself is like a level 20 or something. So you're going in half charged. So there's a lot of times where you get knocked down or you die or something like that, and then you're it's usually the AI teammate to come and save you rather than one of us because we're either dead or we're trying to fight
Hmm.
somewhere else. So the AI is usually the one that gets you. I thought the one thing I think we both pointed out was sometimes there's higher where you're higher super high on a building or you're
Yeah.
fighting a boss or something and you're really high and you happen to die up there. I think they just got to figure out a way to make sure the AIs are able to get up there, especially if
Yeah.
you're Iron Man. I think that happened to you a couple times.
Yeah, I don't know why Iron Man couldn't fly to my location and heal me. Um, but yeah, speaking of the co-op, it's divided into two different types of missions. You have the drop zone and you have the mission, or sorry, the war zone stuff. And this is separate from the solo campaign. So the solo campaign you have to play by yourself. I'm sure they're probably gonna they have missions where you're one character and there's someone else, not someone else, but a controlled AI controlled side character with you, but you can't play with other people. But the co-op missions are separate. They're not the same as the campaign stuff. The drop zones were, to me, they're like short, quick, what, 10-minute, 15-minute. You play it
Yeah.
for a little bit, and then you get a quick kick out of it. Those are all right. But to me, what was fun with the Warzone ones, where there were much longer missions, right? They were like an hour to 2 hours, where you're actually like going through like, okay, a mini story of sorts, and you really need to like go from one area to the next and progress.
Yeah, I thought I really loved the Warzone. We didn't touch too. We did the harm modes individually on our own, and we didn't really get to do it much on the co-op mode. But there was no we both agree that there was no urgency to really get to that because the harm mode is just a tutorial, not a tutorial, but basically virtual. There's no real stakes or anything like that, and you can
Yeah.
always go to that anytime. So there wasn't really any urgency for that. But the harm mode when we got to do solo, I thought that was cool when it was like saying like Kamala was the one essentially playing as Iron Man, like she was in the virtual suit. But there's no, I don't want to say that's not the like a weak point or anything. We just didn't for the co-op mode. That's not the priority when you're trying to play with somebody online. You're trying to do the war zone, the drop zone missions rather than the harm danger room type things. But overall, I thought all of them had their great elements. But like we're talking about the co-op a little bit more. I just was very impressed with how I would be able to turn over and look while we're still talking, but look and see like what you're doing and no real issues or anything. And I was like, oh wait, that he's over there fighting, but like I'm looking at him and there's no lag, there's no like delay or anything. I'm like, all right, this is pretty cool. Like this is pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. And the communication too, because like you said, there's different things that each character can do. There's like if there's lasers or something, you're communicating. We're like, hey, if you're Hulk, can you throw a rock up there? If you're
Yeah.
Kamala, like stretch your arm. So different things like that. I thought that like that added a extra layer of fun because you have to communicate with your teammate. And speaking of that, we were talking about with the Warzone mission. There was one particular moment where we were all four of us were together, like fighting in a big ass circle with all these robots, and we talked about how it was reminiscent of like the first Avengers movie when they're in that circle, and then you hear the music start to swell up. So I definitely think that wasn't an intentional moment, but I definitely do suspect that we'll have a moment like that or two throughout the actual Avengers game, which I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, we didn't get. I didn't see any slowdown or anything with
Yeah.
multiple enemies on the screen. Plus, we're playing on multiplayer online with each other. Well, let's talk about the one thing that the game did get criticism for when it was first announced and the first demo came out was like the graphics. People were
Hmm.
complaining about the graphics, especially the character models. Now, I wouldn't say these are the best character models ever or whatever, but are much improved since that first time.
Yes.
Um, Especially when you get to the cutscenes or whatnot, it's still not Last of Us quality or whatever, but I think they're pretty good. And also, the majority of the time you play, you are not seeing any of their like close-up faces other than the cutscenes. It's all from the behind, and like the graphics in those regards are pretty good. Especially you get some lighting effects. I know, like with the Hulk, you're running around and you can see the light kind of hitting his body and whatnot, and just there's a lot of detail. And I personally didn't have any issues with the graphics. I mean, I think the one that might have been the least appealing was probably Thor. I know a lot of people were complaining about Black Widow, but I think they've worked on her a lot since then. But I think Thor, maybe the way his hair is or whatever. But like I said, it's just a minor thing. I don't think it's going to detract from the overall fun of playing the game.
Yeah, there was, like you said, when we're going into the game specifically, I'm not looking for a super high detailed, like Last of Us type graphics on my characters. Like I don't need it to feel essentially like I'm watching a movie while I'm playing live action. Like I don't
Hmm.
want it to, even with Ghost of Tsushima, it wasn't as high quality as Last of Us, but it still
Hmm.
got like it still looked good. And I think that's like how I feel about this Avengers game. Like you said, when you're actually playing the game and when you're fighting,
Hmm.
your face is turned most of the time to the camera.
Yeah.
Like you don't see your character play at all. Like you said, unless you're doing a cutscene, there's no real focus. Like your focus should be on destroying people, destroying robots, things like that. I'm not zooming in
Mm.
close to the screen. Like, oh wait, is Kamala's face or is Hulk? Is that the accurate Hulk? Like nothing along those lines. I thought the graphics for what this type of game is, especially being a co-op, especially like getting
Hmm.
multiple updates and constantly being online and things like that. I think the graphics are just fine. A little, like you said, a little bit of more cosmetic tweaks to the actual characters, but other than that, I think this is where they hit the sweet spot on making sure it feels detailed enough while still being able to like look low enough quality where they can have it like constant updates and still build upon it. So I'm completely fine with the graphics. And speaking of just the graphics, I think the voice acting across the
Hmm.
all the characters we saw, I think they work out pretty well. Like I'm fine with how everybody sounds compared to what the characters look like. So I'm fine with the voice acting. I'm fine with the graphics, and I kind of thought it was interesting how we mentioned it while we were playing as well. Kind of I thought it was interesting how we have Kamala and Bruce being paired together as like a mentor
Hmm.
mentee type relationship, and Troy Baker's voicing Bruce
Yeah.
Banner, and he's basically when he does the same thing with Joel. So it's kind of interesting that they put that relationship in here as him being a mentor to a younger female character. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. I would say the only criticism I have, and it's also a criticism that might go away with the final game, is when we did play some of the co-op Warzone missions, the environments seem to be very similar to
Hmm.
each other. A lot of bunker stuff and whatnot. So I'm hoping that when the actual game comes out, that there's more varied stuff that you can do in terms of environments. And I think so. I think we saw some snow environments. I'm just saying for right now for the beta, the environments aren't that different from each other, and I'd like to see a more like some outdoor stuff and some more, what I mean, just different
Yeah.
types of missions. So hopefully that's something that I don't even know if it's a word say corrected, because maybe it's already in there. It's just something I'd like to see in the full game.
Yeah, same. That was the only, like, I guess a real critique as well. Is just we were when we were doing a harm mission or something like that. Sometimes we would even ask each other like, haven't we already done this mission or haven't we already been here? So I'm like you said, I'm hoping that once they're able to show the full game, once we get closer to the full release, they're able to throw in more variations. I'm chalking it up to them just not wanting to really show any other places right now because of the story or anything like that. But yeah, that was definitely one thing we noticed was like some of the places when you were, especially the harm missions, or not the harm missions, but
Aim.
the war zone. Yeah,
Yeah.
the those type of missions, you would see the those type of environments a little bit repeat. But overall, I gotta say that besides that, I don't really have many other critiques other than that because overall I was loving this game from the beta from when we got to start to up until 12:01. Literally, when I say
Man,
me and Dennis playing like at Saturday midnight at 12:01, we were like, please, hopefully they don't kick us off, please, please, please. And then nope,
I've got
12:01,
the
Marvel
boot.
was like, nah. They were like, get out of here. So they definitely are being strict about it. But I'm loving every second we got.
Yeah, I definitely had a lot of fun playing it, playing the co-op and the solo mission. So I'm looking forward I was already excited for this game, but playing the beta to see that it actually achieved what you want out of a game like
Yeah.
this in terms of the combat, the graphics, the options, the customizations. I think they're looking like, I can't say for sure because we didn't play the full game, but it looks like they've achieved what people are looking for. So we can only, you know, wait till the full game comes out to verify that, but it looks on course for me.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited, and I can't wait to jump back into. We're going to be doing the same beta again, but I can't wait to jump back into it and actually try to explore and find those little Easter eggs and things like that because they have those type of things in there. I think for the Easter eggs in this is like if you find a comic book, you get boosted up more powers and things like that. So I'm excited to try to explore that more my second time around.
Cool. All right, guys. So that's our first impressions of Avengers from the beta. We're going to be streaming and doing some more videos on Avengers, of course. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, youtube.com/Collider Games. Follow us on our podcast feed. That's the Collider Factory podcast feed for videos or podcasts like this, our weekly podcast, interviews, and all that good stuff. Dorian, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Dorian Parks and Rec, and you can find me on Instagram at Dorian Parks, and you can find me right here on Collider Games.
And you can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero, Instagram, Dennis.tzng. Also, yeah, just keep on checking us out. And thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys later.